I'm 65. My grandson asked me to shoot some hoops. I can't, though. I want to, but my back won't let me. I'm overweight, in constant pain every day. Now I'm in just regret because I didn't start making changes until the pain forced me to. And the disappointment on my grandson's face was overwhelming for me. Fitness and health don't seem to matter really until one day it becomes obvious. That's the future that Randy and I refuse to let happen. In our late 20s, we became extremely disciplined around our health, our habits that many people mocked us for. But now at age 40, most people think we're only 30 or in our high 20s. And we're going to go in some detail of how that is. And we actually got some blood tests done on our biological age, just showing around age 30. So a lot of people guessing around age 30 is they're guessing right as far as our biological age. And we're going to continue to share a few things on why we think that is. And yeah, that's what we're going to share today.
I'm always getting, I feel like it's more and more over the last 5 years, but I always get that surprise. And it's a weird thing to say because it feels egotistical to say like, oh, everybody thinks I'm much younger. You know what I mean? It like feels weird for me just even saying that, but it happens so frequently, especially in basketball. When you and I play basketball a lot more, and you come into contact with older people, and they guess your age, or you're running. In basketball, you're playing 5-on-5, and you're running, you're guarding the best player, but you're 40 years old. It's something that surprises a lot of people. And and I think that just in general, people are just very surprised. And I think that's many years of discipline and in the trenches day after day of working on our health, whether it's looking through literature, listening to thought leaders, and which is like hours, 3-hour podcasts of Rhonda Patrick, and I've listened to probably maybe 100 of her podcasts over the last decade, and she's a top expert in anything in nutrition, longevity, aging, etc. And so just hours and hours. It's like one of our personal passions.
I heard a podcast, this guy named Martin Picard. He was on the Diary of the CEO podcast. Stephen Bartlett, I think is the guy's name, from somewhere in Europe. But the one thing he talked about, it resonated really well with this. And he essentially talking about how we spend our energy. Like our bodies have a certain amount of energy per day. And then it diverts that energy to certain things, whether that's like repair or healing, or like prioritizing like long-term stuff when it comes to like cell regeneration, stem cell production, digestion, immune function, all these things. And the one thing he talked about was when you have stress in your life, it essentially diverts all that energy to more like urgent needs. So it takes all those resources and energy and takes it. So if you're constantly in a stress environment, or you can't handle stress very well, your energy isn't going to be expended in the way that's advantageous for aging well, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So the one thing the one thing he talked about was gray hair. And he did this study actually, where he like mapped out people's diaries, and it aligned perfectly with gray hair and certain very high stress events in their life. It mapped it. And then you could actually reverse it, which I never even heard of. You could reverse gray hair. I never even heard of this. And he did it himself, and then other people in this study did it, and
Whoa.
like this person went on a 2-week vacation. He had gray hairs, and then the hairs literally stop turning. So they start turning gray even inside your head, and then they come out and they're gray. But you can reverse it to what goes back to whatever your hair color was, and it's all based around the guy went on vacation and he just de-stressed. And people
Wow.
see this with presidents all the time. A
Yeah.
president, Obama was real
Obama's
bad.
the best
All the
example.
presidents of the previous years, they go in looking one way and then they come out with all kinds of gray hair, wrinkles, all this stuff, because our energy isn't being, they're just stressed 24/7. So their bodies aren't sending that energy to, like long-term functional things like skin repair, deep healing of wounds, hair color, all that type of jazz. And to me, that just resonated a lot with me, because I see it with my bosses and jobs and previous jobs, where especially higher up. And I think you did some research on that, just showing when it comes to, they're just not very happy once you get higher up in the hierarchy, and they just age a lot faster. I had bosses that, people were just amazed that they're only a few years older than me and some other people in the company. And it's just like, they were constantly stressed 24/7, and they were having all these issues with gut issues and everything, because their body was sending all that energy. And the one thing that Mark Picard said was, it's not really the stress, it's our response to the stress that's the most worrisome, because then we're ruminating on it day after day, and we're making it a bigger issue. We're not getting over it quickly. So that was the biggest thing.
Drinking and smoking to suppress it, doing other things to suppress it.
Yeah, he didn't even talk about that, but that's a great point.
Eating bad habits.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember the trigger for me to like shift my health. I mean, we've probably been on this health trajectory journey, call it, since we were 29 years old, maybe ish, 30. So it's been about 10 years. So maybe 28 or so. But in those first, say, 5 to 7 years, we really weren't that healthy yet. We were just, and we had an intention, and then we started changing our diet just a little bit, but we really truly didn't understand like what optimal health was. And maybe we don't now, but we're 10 times more than we did back then. Mm-hmm. And I remember like one of the things that like kicked my ass into gear and made me really reconsider my health and upcharge it to another level was 5 years ago during COVID. It was 2021. I got COVID, and I've always battled through sickness, and especially like I don't ever miss work because of sickness. And then I remember getting fever for 6 days and having to like miss 2-3 days at least, because I just couldn't work. It was just a bad case of COVID. And I remember thinking there, like hacking, coughing in the bed. Tina was taking care of me, and I remember thinking at one point, I was like, is this the way I'm going to die? Because you just hear, because it was like, this was in the heat of all the COVID, right? Like this, where like people were dying, everybody's fucking alarmed. And I remember thinking that like this what radically shifted. I remember getting a blood panel done, and I remember sitting in my home office, laptop open, going through the results of this like blood panel, nutritional panel, and I remember seeing vitamin D, and it was at 20. And I remember listening to Chris Kresser just recently on vitamin D, and optimal levels for him is between like over 50, but between 70 and 100. And I remember him sharing this meta-analysis of people with COVID, and how those with, if you had over, I think, a 70 or a 50 vitamin D level, it helped your immunity so much that I basically people at that level were essentially asymptomatic or no hospitalizations. I can't recall the data, but I remember posting about this. And so for a guy who thought that he was healthy, it was a real reality check. And I remember like getting my vitamin D levels up, as well as other things, having a daily exercise habit, really radically shifting my diet to the highest quality, things like regenerative agriculture, meat, everything's organic, no questions, unless you're out to eat. But recently, I got the company Function. I got my new blood panel done, and my vitamin D levels are at 90.
Wow. Yeah, mine was
And
around 70, I think, 70 something,
I had
74.
gotten a lot of sun this summer, and I think that's what helped, is like vitamin D supplementation plus sun. But I think you and I have talked about this in other videos of some of the things we do, but we took our health to another level. I had some cognitive issues, psychiatric issues, 4 or 5 years ago too, that helped trigger this change. But you and I take cold showers every day. That is very helpful to your health and longevity and immunity. And exercise, of course, is another one. One of the things I was looking at as I was doing research on like the most evidence-based things that you can help with biological age and or mortality risk. And I just want to read off a few of these. And these are all like randomized controlled trials, the top of the top research, and we can put some of these in the show notes. 2022 Mayo Clinic summarizes as a meta-analysis of all the literature of like cardiorespiratory fitness, so like just cardio, right? And it found that increasing, they call this like 1 MET. It's the unit of measurement for cardio, how your cardio fitness is measured. But in every increase of 1 to your cardio fitness, it's a reduction of 11% lower risk of all-cause mortality. 11%. And those in the top third quartile have 45% lower mortality risk than those in the bottom third. That's a huge meta-analysis, right? And that's just, people with good cardio fitness. So think running, biking, whatever you do, basketball. There's another study of 412,000 U.S. adults that found that regular aerobic exercise was associated with a 24% lower all-cause mortality risk. And there's just consistently these same things just continue to pop up. There was another one, 30 to 40% lower all-cause mortality. And so if you're exercising, your biological age, my biological age was 30.6. I turned 40 in 3 months. Now we're not perfect. In that blood panel, I have some things I need to work on. But I think these are some of the things you can do. Another piece that Rhonda talks about, she calls them exercise snacks. I actually heard her on Humerman have like some weird self-conscious around the naming of exercise snacks. I don't know why, because I love the name. Some people are probably in the comments saying, that that's an annoying name. Who knows? But I love it. Two studies on this. There was an analysis of 25,000 non-exercisers, just regular people, right, that don't exercise. Just 3 or 4 1-minute vigorous bursts per day. So imagine just, run into the bus stop. You run to the bus stop, you come home, run to the bus stop. And then all you need is just one more. Run to your kids when you get home out in the yard. Now you have 3. It's associated with a 38 to 40% lower all-cause mortality and 48% lower cardiovascular mortality over roughly 7 years. Just something simple as that. And there was something else. Oh yeah, 10 body weight squats. So if you're just doing 10 body weight squats, you just go, 1, 2, all the way to 10. Every 45 minutes, improve glucose regulation more than a 30-minute walk in one study. So if you're just doing exercise squats, just pop out 10 every hour, and it's better than a 30-minute walk. Those are some of the aerobic ones. I have one on some nutrition, and then I have some on resistance training as well. But I'm gonna kick it over to you, see if you have any thoughts.
Yeah. I'll have to jump off here in like 4 minutes too as well. But
Okay.
a lot of what that Martin Picard was saying when he was talking about energy expenditure, that there was like a few things that he was talking about, and it was how to manage your stress better, right? And meditation was one of them. And all the things he names is stuff that we've been doing, that call it the last 12 years, right? So meditation, do it daily, and just being a lot more mindful even in your daily life. Like when bad news happens, are you stressing out about it? Are you paranoid about a result of something? Are you making up stories about what's going to happen at work the next day and stressing about it unnecessarily? Like there's no point of stressing out about it, because just get there and let it happen. I mean, I've experienced these things and I've gotten better over the years, and meditation, it connects your prefrontal cortex to your amygdala. There's a lot of studies, higher meditators, that you have a stronger connection between that stress response to amygdala and your prefrontal cortex, and there's a stronger connection with high meditators. So there's one, and then the regular movement and exercise. And he talked about the benefit didn't really happen during the exercises, but it was afterwards. So our cells respond to discomfort, and then it builds like more mitochondria, and you're able to like prepare for the next time. So you're able to like develop more mitochondria. And so he just talked about rest is important after that exercise. Yeah. And then one of the big issues with the majority of society, avoid chronically overeating with an insert periods of fasting. We've talked about those studies when it comes to intermittent fasting. Just not even changing your diet, just having intermittent fasting you can build lean muscle mass, and you drop, I think it was like around 10 pounds for every 2 weeks, I believe was the study on that. Wow. On that previous stat. So like those are a couple different things. And then the last one he talked about was just cultivating positive, meaningful experiences and connection with others, which the lab has found correlates with measurable mitochondria changes, which all those are correlated with longevity as well. When you go to longevity studies, it's like meaningful, strong relationships are big. Yeah. And to me, it just reduces stress. You have someone to communicate, talk about stuff with.
And those aren't physical things you have to do every day, and like it's very hard. It's like things anyone can do. Well, one thing, and we'll end it. There's the other two that help with longevity, mortality risk. So aging, resistance training, up to 30% or 13% lower all-cause mortality, 27% lower neurological disease mortality risk. Think Alzheimer's and whatnot. And then a combination of omega-3, vitamin D, and resistance training together had a 61% lower incidence of invasive cancer. And that's just 30 minutes of resistance training 3 times daily, and then omega-3 and vitamin D supplement. So,
wow, which is what we've been taking for like a decade.
Yeah. So there you go. I hope this was helpful to you and on your journey to playing with your grandkids more when you get that chance.
Yeah, and just to feel better daily, I think, is the most important thing.
Oh, of course. Yeah. And yeah, like the video, subscribe, and check out our other videos on our channel. We talk a lot about health, nutrition, psychology, philosophy, you name it.
Appreciate it.
Thanks all.